along as I read, and we'll delve into this first portion. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle. Were gathered together at Shakah, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Shakah and Azekah and Ephes-dammim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. So they're coming together for battle. They're drawing up their lines as far as and defenses and setting forth that they are going to try their best then to overcome one another. They are at odds with one another, as they have been. So it's been promised even and seen in Saul's day that there was constant war, there was constant then skirmishes, and there were things going on between Israel and the Philistines. So it was one of their arch rivals at this time, and it continued to be. So just a kind of a thorn in the flesh for those of the Israelites. Here the Philistines come again, and it's close to the border of Philistia. So Philistia is running along the Mediterranean Sea, and you have all of these different places, such as Azekah, that are mentioned, or that of what's going to be mentioned here in just a moment, Gath. So these are important cities of the Philistines. And so they're coming just on the border of Judah. It's about 15 miles then that the Israelites are going to set up camp, about 15 miles to the west of Bethlehem, that they're going to set up this camp and encampment and seek to then offer defenses. Ephes-dammim is a place of, as you see here, kind of rough terrain. It says that one set up on the mountains on this side, one set on the mountains, and then there's this valley of Elah that lies between. And it's not a valley that's, again, one that's it's one that has some type of defenses as you get down into the valley, but it's pretty well open in the sense that it would be a death trap if one were to go without the other also meeting them in the middle. So neither the Philistines nor those of the Israelites, with the lay of the land, are willing to enter into the valley unless the other opposing then war, those that war with them, that of the armies, enter with them at that point in time. They're not going to try to pass through and get to the other side to overcome the Philistines, nor the Philistines to the other side. Yeah, so that which lay in between is something that says, okay, well, there's something of an impasse here. We can't really get to the Philistines, and they really can't get to us. So we're just kind of stuck here in the battle. We've drawn up the lines, but there's no way of really engaging in this battle. So what do we do? If we obviously leave our post, then the Philistines can come and they can make some inroads into Judah. And the Philistines aren't leaving their post for us then to make inroads into their territory either. So this is kind of where they're at. These first three verses, it's important because it's one of those in the, again, lay of the land that you just kind of say, well, okay, if only Israel would have gotten to the valley before the Philistines could have set up their encampment on the high ground, then there they could have moved forward, they could have advanced, but now they can't. The same with the Philistines. If only they could have they would have advanced, but now they're at a stalemate. So the Philistines gather, and the people of Judah, they gather, and there went out a champion now in verse 4. So this is where it makes sense to me as I studied this out. I always thought, this seems really weird. Okay? Why wouldn't you take and just, again, try to overrun the other, or in some way gain an advantage over the other with the people that you have? Maybe try to do an end and around, try to in some way get around their defenses. There has to be some way, but again, with the way in which it is geographically, there's no possible way of doing that. And so this makes sense in verse 4 that there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. So he comes out and he's challenging anyone, not everyone, obviously, not all are going to come, but anyone that would be willing to fight him. And he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass, and he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are you come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants of Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me, and to kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him, and kill him, then shall ye be our servants, and serve us. And the Philistine said this, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together. I'm only 5'7", 5'8", somewhere in that range, okay? Who's probably the tallest person here?
Jones.
Maybe Jones? How tall are you, Jones?
6'1".
6'1", okay. So I don't know what's average, as far as what's average for an American male, okay, because these were all men here at this time, fighting, okay, they come with Israel, so these are men that are set, and so at that point, as I looked it up, a Jewish man on average, again, is around 5'7" at the tallest, okay, maybe shorter, sometimes 5'4" is more in line, So probably, okay, that was like on average here that they're like 5'7", somewhere in that area, and so here is a giant of a man. Has anybody ever been close to somebody who's really tall? Okay, really gotten close to them, not just seeing them from afar. I know maybe you've gone to a basketball game or something and seen somebody from afar and said, "Wow, they're still." Pretty ominous in the sense of saying that they're pretty tall from here. I can't imagine being right next to them. But who's the tallest person you've ever been next to? Anybody? Have somebody really tall that they've been next to? I've been next to a friend of mine that was from a church in Michigan where I served. He's 6'10". Okay, and here recently I saw a little post that had these two gentlemen, one from OKC. I can't remember the guy's name in OKC, and I can't say the guy's name over at San Antonio, Wemby. Anyway, Wemby, these guys are 7 foot and taller, 7'4", I think Wemby is over at San Antonio. So 7'4". That's crazy, because I've been next to somebody 6'10". Whoa, that's massive. Again, at that, I think probably the ceiling, maybe 7 feet. Maybe. So if you had somebody 6'10" in here, they'd be scraping. Okay, real close to scraping their heads. Okay, so and the thing is about this guy in San Antonio. Have you ever seen him? Anybody know who that is? The gentleman that he's really thin. He's a rail for being 7'4". He's a rail. He's just really skinny. And yet, I was looking up Shaquille O'Neal. You remember Shaquille O'Neal? Massive guy. He's 7'1", so he was shorter, yes, but he outweighed this gentleman from San Antonio in the Spurs by about 100 pounds. So he was a Shaquille O'Neal, a massive guy. Okay, guess how big his feet were, or are. I don't know if they shrunk, but they are. Shaquille O'Neal. What size shoe does he wear?
Size 18?
Yeah, 22. Size 22. I'm just thinking along these lines to say, wow, this is a giant of a man. How tall was Goliath? How big was Goliath? He had to be massive. He wasn't this little bitty rail of a guy, for one. But he's 9 foot, 9 inches tall. That's unfathomable. I can't imagine. I can't imagine how tall that really is, being next to something. But he's massive in this. He's strong because he's carrying this coat of mail, and it's weighing at least, because there are other estimates that say it's much more than this, at least 125 pounds that he's carrying along. That's a lot of weight. But he's going into battle, so he must be able then to maneuver even with all of this weight that he's carrying. And not only that, but it's talking about the spear that he has, okay, that he's carrying on his back, that's weighing another 30 pounds at least. Because the weaver's beam is probably around 15 pounds, and then the head that it talks about here, it gives you the weight of, and it says that it is 15 pounds. 15 pounds of iron that's on the tip of the spear that he's going to be taking and using in battle. This is a strong man. This is a massive man. This is imposing as far as his figure. You're looking at this guy from even afar, from the mountain, looking down into the valley where he's coming out, and he's defying that of the Israelites. And you're looking down and you're saying, wow, that is a huge gentleman. That is, and he's a champion at that. So he's been crowned among the Philistines. He's the best of the best as far as going into warfare. So this is something of which then you look at and you say, this guy is massive, amazing. And so all I'm saying is this. When it says in verse 11, when Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they didn't say, sign me up. They didn't clamor among one another and say, hey, I want to go. No, I want to go. No, I'm going to go. I'm getting out there first. I'm going to go out to battle with this guy. No, you can kind of understand. They were dismayed and greatly afraid. Their voice probably cracked too, like that. They were just like, wow, no way. Why don't you go? I'll sign you up. Yeah, I think I saw your hand go. I'm volunteering you. You can go out and face this guy. But none of them really wanted to face him, and none of them thought they could win. Not one of them that were there that day of the Israelites thought, yeah, we've got somebody that can take that guy on. They had no idea how they were going to defeat Goliath. In fact, again, in their hearts and their minds, I'm sure they were saying, we're done. There is no way. We might as well just throw in the towel now. We might as well just wave the white flag. We're done. There's no possible way that we can defeat Goliath. Just look at him. Just listen to him. The next words are this. Now David. So we've seen him in the last chapter. We've seen him prophesied, so it didn't name him earlier. Remember, he was a man after God's own heart that God had drawn out, circled, so that's the guy. Object of his appointment for the next of the kingship, because he's anointed him, had him anointed the last chapter in chapter 16 by Samuel. A neighbor, as it mentions in chapter 15, mentioning David, a neighbor that was better. And when it talks about better than Saul, it doesn't mean that he was smarter. He was a better strategist. Because I think Saul was pretty good in that way. But one that knew God, again, and one that was discerning and wise. His character elevated him. He was better as far as being the kind of man that God would have and want. and especially in leadership. So now David was the son of the Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse. Now Jesse had 8 sons. The man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. Jesse was a man of reputation as well, and the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle. So they're there. They're among those of the army. They're the soldiers, part of the soldiers then that are there at the time when this Goliath, this champion of Gath, is coming out. And 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab, the firstborn, Abinadab, and the third, Shema. And David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul. Now this is important because in chapter 16, and something that's going to be said here in this chapter seems to be like, I don't understand. So to be clear, if we just understand here that, again, David wasn't in the battle. David wasn't a permanent fixture in Saul's vision right before him. He wasn't a part of his unit. He wasn't that one that was close to Saul. David, in fact, then, it says in verse 15, went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. So he was just temporarily, in chapter 16, there with Saul. And he was with Saul when Saul was troubled by this evil spirit. When the Spirit of God had departed from him, he was really then not mentally. Saul wasn't all there. And yet David had played with his hand, and music had been performed in the sense then of ministering to his spirit. And so it is that David was kind of in and out, and he'd been out for a while. He was away from Saul. He wasn't with the armies. He wasn't a part then of his court and doing those things that were of playing music. It wasn't necessary for a time here in Saul's life. David had been used of God at a certain point, but it had been years probably before this that he had seen Saul, or that Saul had seen him. So he's feeding sheep at Bethlehem, and the Philistine drew near morning and evening and presented himself how many days? 40 days. So here again, that first part makes sense. Hey, this was just one of those things where there's no possible way of either one gaining an advantage. The only way to determine who is going to be a victor is by way of fighting in the valley and finding a man to face Goliath. A foe that was indeed formidable, one of which no one thought possible to defeat. So for 40 days, this goes on. Nobody is going to be found, it seems, to fight Goliath. So think about this a little bit. Okay, we're going to stop here just to consider some things about God. No man to this point was willing to go forward. Was willing to go forward in faith in God. That God's power was great enough to overcome the enemy. Nobody. And yet, it is known and understood that there's seemingly, when there's insurmountable obstacles, that God is up to the challenge. He's up to the task. And you say, well, how do we know that? How can we be sure of that? Well, they should have been recalling what God had already done for the nation of Israel. When it was that Eli's sons and those of Israel went against the Philistines at one point, and they took then with them the Ark of God, and the Ark of God is captured earlier, and we find the Ark of God among the Philistines. We note that God is up to the challenge. God didn't need anyone to stand up for him, anyone to be the one then that would defend him in any sense. He didn't need a man that was capable. In fact, in that case, he didn't need a man whatsoever. He took up his own cause. And remember in chapter 5, it says that there in, let's look back there just real quick. In chapter 5, that Dagon, the god of of the Philistines, was thrown down. So in verse 1, the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it to Ebenezer unto Ashdod. When the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. And when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. And when they arose early on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord, and the head of Dagon and both of his palms, the palms of his hands, were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore neither the priest of Dagon nor any that came into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod unto this day. So again, this was well known in Israel. This was known that, hey, they don't tread on the threshold because that's where Dagon was cast down and defeated. God showed himself to be the only God. All the gods of the nations are but idols. There's no one that can stand before God if God determines, hey, this person then is against me, this person is opposed to me, their religion is not that of mine, it's false. Then, listen, I can stand up for myself and I can do. So even in the midst of this time in Israel in chapter 17, you don't ever find to this point anyone willing to trust God that God can defend himself. God can do for them something that is powerful. This one is not an insurmountable obstacle, this 9'9" mass of a man. He is nothing. The gods of the Philistines are nothing. God is able to do what is necessary in his strength, no matter what the match may be. Whether a false deity, one that was nothing, or that of ungodly men. No one can stand before God. When God seeks to act, he can act, and he can act decisively. He is powerful. He is mighty. But what I was going to say is that nowhere do you find thus far that anybody fell down before the Lord and said, Lord, you are our only help. You are our only hope. No, they flee. They're dismayed. They don't know what to think. There's this is an moment. We're done for. And in their own strength, yes. They had no ability to defeat this one Goliath, but God. Right? So here's God. And here, God in his grace yet acts. They didn't deserve it. He could have said, I've had it with these Israelites. I've had it with Saul. I've had it with the army. They don't deserve my help. But what does he do? Now David. In his grace, he sends this young man, possibly in the courts earlier was 12, now he's creeping up, maybe it's been years enough, maybe 16 or 18. He's not very old. He is the youngest, and he is something of one that seems to be not, again, trusted that he could in any way do for the armies of Israel what God would want to do. But here, in God's grace, God always is willing to act on behalf of his people. And he raises up men to stand in the gap when others fear, when others fail. And we see this now as we continue on. So it says, now Jesse said unto David his son, in verse 17, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of parched corn and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren, and carry these 10 cheeses unto the captain, their 1,000, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. Let me know how they're doing. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines, and David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with the keeper. So he didn't just abandon the sheep, took care of them, but he rose up early. He went to do what his dad said quickly, and went at Jesse, as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trench as the host was going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. Let's keep reading here and looking in as we get to verse 29. Note verse 29 with me here in just a moment. And the men of Israel said, Have ye seen this man that has come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth the Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? Say it again. Come again. For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab his eldest brother heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why camest thou down hither? With whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart. Oh, really? God doesn't look at the outward appearance. Eliab didn't measure up to what God wanted earlier in chapter 16. But God looks on the heart. So is Eliab God? Can Eliab see David's heart? No, he knows not his own heart. For God didn't see that he had a heart for him. For thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from him toward another, and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. God's cause is always worth defending. And for those that have a heart toward him, he shows himself strong on their behalf. I love that portion, 2 Chronicles 16 verse 9. It's dealing with Asa. Asa, who did not trust God when he had trusted him before, did not trust him in the second instance. And the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout all the earth. What's he seeking after? A person whose heart is toward him, that he may show himself strong on their behalf. And here was David with great courage saying, You know what? The cause of God is worth defending. The cause of God is worth standing up for. He's rallying, trying to rally them. Hey, isn't there a reason? Isn't there a cause? Isn't there something that we could say, you know what? Here is a man that's defying the armies of the living God. This is the living God. These are God's armies. This is God's reputation that's at stake. And so he encouraged, then stands up, and this is a courage, again, instilled by God, I believe, fully. Because what is it said of David, as opposed to what was said of Saul, that the Spirit of God departed from Saul, but it rested upon David back there in chapter 16. So the Spirit of God, by the Spirit of God, he was courageous, not by might, nor by power, but by thy Spirit, the Spirit of God, says the Lord. And here he stood. So God, again, is seen in the matters of courage instilled. God is also seen in the matters of the sovereignty. In verses 34 through 36, David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep. And there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock, and I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him and killed him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them. He is outside of the covenants and the promises of God, this one that's defying God himself. It's not just a matter of defying the armies, not just a matter of then standing up for himself in pride. He is doing so in arrogance against the living God. He goes on to say this, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. This matter of experiences prior to this, God's sovereignty and working in David's life and bringing David to this point and preparing him for this particular instance in his life and this battle that would be against Goliath. God was in charge. God was working. God was the one to whom David was giving praise. God had done something for me in the past. He'll do something for me again. I trust him. He's a God that is a God that has prepared me for this moment. I'll go. I'll do for the Lord whatever he bids. And he'll do for me just as he is able. His ability is on full display. His wisdom. 40 days. I'm surprised that Saul hadn't already surrendered. I really am. And all the people in their cowardice hadn't already surrendered and just said, okay, we're done. Okay, we'll be your servants. And maybe that would have happened if there had been one more day of Goliath and his challenge. But God's timing is always impeccable. And so on that 41st day, here's David. David is sent by Jesse. Oh, what a coincidence, right? Of course not. God knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly the time to send. He knew exactly that there was a solution, and the solution, though, is improbable. Here's David, little David. Are you kidding me? David, who can't even carry the armor, he can't carry the sword, he's not able because he's not trained. Here, Goliath's been trained since his youth in the matters of warfare. And here's David. Well, I killed a lion and a bear one time. And Saul could have said, big deal. Have you seen this guy? What are you talking? All the armies that I have here. I'm not even willing to go out against this guy. I'm taller than all of you guys. I'm not willing to go out. An improbable solution to the problem. And God is always up to the task to have the wisdom to say, I know exactly what you need. I know when you need it. And I'll give it to you if you'll trust me. It's hard not to be a little bit pessimistic, I guess, maybe. I don't know how to say it about Saul. What did Saul mean by, go and the Lord be with thee? I'm not so sure that this is a statement of like, yeah, the Lord's gonna do for us some great things here by you, David. The Lord is going to do. No, I tend to think this is more like, bless your heart. Bless your heart. You know, better you than me. You go get him, all right? You go get him. So, I don't know. I really don't know that this is a statement of real faith here by Saul. I really doubt it. This is probably he doesn't stand a chance. kind of saying that you don't stand a chance. Lord bless you. Going out there. And maybe even this matter of he's going to die. This kind of sarcasm, like, Lord bless you. maybe it's a matter of faith. Maybe there's something to it, but more than what I'm willing to give to Saul. But I really think that maybe this is just a resignation that, hey, there's nobody else. Hope all goes well. And not thinking that it was going to go well at all. This is going to be disastrous. This is going to be really bad. But God's wisdom is there. God's wisdom. So, Saul, as I had alluded to, arms him with his stuff, but David says, I can't wear it. I can't do this. I can't go out and fight against Goliath with all this garb on. And he took his staff in his hand, verse 40. This is David. Took his staff in his hand, chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had, even in a scrip. And his sling was in his hand. And he does something that none of the others are willing to do. I'm going to go after this guy. He draws near unto the Philistine. And the Philistine came on to draw near unto David. This is almost comical, right? This is a little bit funny. If you read this for the first time, you're like, oh boy, this is going to be bad. Yeah, the Goliath is easily seen at 9'9" as they're drawing near. Hey, I can see my target clearly. Okay, but here's Goliath drawing nigh unto David, and he's probably going, "Where is he? Where's the guy that's coming out to fight me? I can't really see him. He's so little, so short." And yet here he comes. They're drawing up close to one another. They're coming close to one another almost, and so you have this where now Goliath says, "Oh, there's David. He's coming into view. I see this now." And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him. I'm sure he laughed. This has laughter written all over it. For he was but a youth and ruddy and a fair countenance. This little boy's coming out, and the Philistine said unto David, "Am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves?" Are you kidding me? Am I some mangy mutt that you're going to scare me away with your stick, your little staff, and your little stones? What are you doing? It's almost as if Goliath's giving him another chance to think about it. Okay, hey, just think about this. And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Ooh, really? By Dagon? Ooh. David had to know. God's already taken care of Dagon. He's already shown himself greater than him. And the Philistine said to David, "Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field." Then said David to the Philistine. I know you know it, but follow along. Verse 45. "Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied." Let me see if I can find this. I don't think I wrote it down, but go with me to here it is actually. Over to Chronicles. That's where it was. Second Chronicles. I mentioned 2 Chronicles 16. Maybe this will whet your appetite to read in 2 Chronicles further, but in 2 Chronicles 32. 2 Chronicles 32. This is it. This is Hezekiah and the matters of the Assyrians coming against him. And here's what he says. "Be strong," Hezekiah says, "be strong and courageous. Be not afraid nor dismayed. For the king of Assyria, or for him, nor for all the multitude that is with him. For there be more with us than are with him." This is 2 Chronicles 32 and verse 7. No. The people of Israel must have been counting heads like, wait a minute, there aren't more with us than are with the king of Assyria. If I remember correctly, 189,000 with the king of Assyria? Yeah, we're short a bit there, Hezekiah. But he says, "For there are more be more with us than with him. With him is an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us. Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so kids are coming in. Okay, stick with me just for a little bit longer here. Because I want us to think on this. Okay, when enemies arise. So if you walk down through this, we can't go back and look at it once again, but as you walk down through this, when enemies arise, those we look to as examples may falter and fail us. They might be a source then for us to become demoralized, to lose hope. So when David arrives and all the armies are fleeing, all these guys that he knows some of them, he knows his brothers for sure, and knows some of his brothers' friends. He's like, why aren't you guys staying here and fighting? What's going on? So the examples could have been demoralizing for David. Those of the family may seek also to discourage us. So Eliab says, what are you doing here, David? I know the naughtiness of your heart. Go back with those sheep. So they, when God calls us to do something and he's putting on our heart, some people are going to say, no. And we could lose enthusiasm. We could be discouraged. We could be ones then not to say, as David did, is there not a cause? Those of leaders may create a source then also of putting a damper on our determination. So we might have a mind to do it, but we may say, well, this leader doesn't think much of me. I don't think I could probably do it either. But that's not David, because he wasn't worried about men. He was only worried about God and what God thought and what God had called him to do. The Lord who delivered me out from the lion and the bear, he'll deliver this guy into my hand. Because the Lord is great. The Lord is powerful. He's gracious. He instills courage. He's sovereign. He's got the perfect timing and the perfect solution because he's all wise. So, as we're faced with obstacles and things of which we think are insurmountable, we have a God who says, trust me. Follow me. And continue to follow me. Don't give up. Don't give up when all those around you may be opposed even to you and to what I want you to do. Do as I've determined. Father, help us. We are people that are prone to falter, to fail, to in some way look away from you. Help us always to look to you. Help us to have a heart for you. And help us not to be afraid, for you are with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
For our closing hymn, number 377, Faith is the Victory. Let's all stand together as we think about what we've heard, as we think about the greatness of our God and our need for faith. Let's remember that faith is the victory. Encamped along the hills of love, these Christian soldiers rise, and press the battle ere the moon shall veil the glowing skies. Against the foe in veils below, let all our strength we hurl. Faith is the victory we know, that overcomes the world. Faith is the victory, faith is the victory. conquered death is still our shining shield. Faith is the victory, faith is the victory, oh glorious victory that overcomes the world. To him who overcomes the foe, my raiment shall be given. Before the angels he shall come, his name confessed in heaven. And onward from the hills of light, our hearts with love aflame will vanquish all the hosts of night in Jesus' conquering name. Faith is the victory, faith is the victory, oh glorious victory that overcomes the world.
By faith David went, and by faith the giant fell. Fell on his face, fell forward with the impact that again was obviously by God's hand. So God can overcome. So the things of which we face, we trust Him, we follow Him, we find Him always true and faithful. Father, thank you so much for this lesson we learned from David and his life and the way in which you operated, the way in which you continue to operate. You continue to operate with strength, with might, with wisdom. You continue to instill and encourage in us. Lord, may you strengthen our hearts this morning. There may be some here that are ready to give up, ready to give in to sin, to Satan. They may be willing and ready to say, hey, I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm not going to stem the tide. But this world's not a friend to grace. It's not our friend. It ought to be that of seen as an enemy and one that you, again, have overcome. And Lord, greater is He that is in us than he that is in the world. So we thank you, and so much so, for all your great grace toward us in your sovereign hand. In Jesus' name, amen.
For the meal, we have a meal afterwards. Yeah. Okay, right now? Yeah, right now. So we're going to video over there. All right.
Yes. She's my You want to play hot dogs? Mommy's home. Very, very close. Okay. Yeah, I'm letting my hair grow out. Remember, it was really short and I'm letting it grow out. The hair, well, thank you. I mean, I haven't gotten too much oil. How are you, sweetie? Got laid off.
Have a good day, Mary.
No, fellowship dinner.
Just dinner. Just fellowship dinner.
Fellowship dinner, I didn't mention it, but sorry.
So, yeah, I have church right now. We're having dinner, but yeah, tonight we're having church tonight. But,
And while we were there, we actually got to go and stop the
And it's
bus.
very heavy.
In the very same area that the guy said that the Philistines were on one side and back when the Israel was on the other. So there was a dried up stream that was there, and he let us go down there and get some stuff. Now, I didn't get some. I saw people like that. Look, it was amazing to stand there and look. It
No,
was
it's
just
all
like,
Friday.
wow.
So he's in, right next to elementary.
Been there twice.
Yeah, I've never been. There was one opportunity I had, and I couldn't do it. So sorry.
How are you doing,
And I was like,
Yeah.
but I can't right now.
I know. I looked over and said, "Is that Juan?" Yeah. To a young man. I know. Well, you were always tall, but you really got tall. So then I saw Annabelle. I said, "That is Juan."
The way you were
It's
describing
good
it
to see you.
was perfect right on.
What grade are you?
Because
10th
there's
grade,
no
right?
city up there now, but he was pointing to the hill and this kind of was talking.
No, not me. Y'all are all getting older. Y'all are getting older.
The city of Judah that was up there, when they came to the mountain, they took over and they were
She's
camped
in
there,
her
and on the
prime.
other
She's in
side
her
was the
prime.
Israeli army.
I'm at the top of the hill
As the
now.
stream ran down, the stream it went up
So I am so
towards the
excited I saw
highway, and
you.
you actually got a
I knew you
field
were
that was very kind of
And it's so big.
and so when you said that if you went down there, that it would,
Yeah.
yes, it was. Because it was
When
so,
you're leaving,
so
you just
the
get
mountains were like
on
coming
the-
like this,
on
and
the
the little
right.
stream was
Right,
right
okay,
down
that's
there
what
at the
I
very
was saying. I said, okay, I know the little area.
Yeah.
I've read, I've never been there, so I'm taking somebody else's word for it. As you read, you know, you study, you're like, okay. And that's telling me the Bible says it.
It's, yeah.
You're like,
And so we're right there.
exactly, you know.
And so I said, oh, we've been there, so this is exactly perfect, so.
Yeah, I have a pastor friend, sorry, I have a pastor friend over there right now.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
On this time over there, so.
It is right now in Granger, and I'm hoping that's the way it stays, but I know we'll see, because I know Franz Road is gonna go down that way, but there's nothing down there unless you live there, so the only reason you're gonna go down there is if you live
They
there.
had come alive.
So,
And so when we were there, we went out to the Sea of Galilee, the Lake of Tiberias.
I'm glad you remember me.
And I thought it
Yeah,
was kind of small.
Yeah,
It's big,
library, that was you, yeah.
But it's kind of small.
Jensen's doing
And so
good.
when you actually go there, and we got to stay in Tiberias that night, and while we were there that night, there was a thunderstorm that blew through. And this was, the lightning
Really? Is
was
this,
so
it's in a
loud,
kit?
or the thunder was so loud and the lightning was so bright that it woke us
Okay.
up from our sleep. And I
Oh,
wanted to go
yeah,
out there,
Jensen's got
but
those,
I
they're
didn't,
very.
because it was powerful, it was scary, and
Easy
even
to
though
lose, hard to
Easy
put
to
together.
lose,
it was kind of
Not
small,
your fault.
I
There you
imagined
go,
it to
that's
be,
what it was.
that storm was so
Yeah,
powerful,
but
I
send us a
imagined
picture of it.
Jesus
Your mom has my
standing
phone
that
number,
boat
so
out
yes,
there.
send us a picture and I'll
And
show
when
you
that
Jensen.
wind came down, you could feel it against the building. So it's like, you know what? This is amazing. Thank you for showing me that.
Our dog.
You need to go
I
just
don't know
for
if
the
our dog-
educational.
We have little Zion, the little white one. I've seen you see.
I mean, I
Oh, we've
will
got
be
the
there
older
one
one.
day.
That's what we kept saying too.
Yeah, but,
And he is
this friend as well, just like
now,
I've heard
and I
many
think we're
say.
gonna have to run home and let it count.
saying,
Because about every half hour we'll get an hour and a half, and so I don't know how that's going. So.
Just standing there, you know, the Sea of Galilee. and seeing
Okay, yeah,
this
so I
is
said,
where it all
well,
started.
they have, we didn't
You
see
know,
anything.
it was amazing because we came from Katy, Texas, and here we were where Christianity was born.
Yeah.
It was
Is
amazing.
this every Saturday, or a Sunday, is this every
The
Sunday?
last Sunday of the month.
Oh, the
thank you
last
for
Sunday of the
that,
month. Okay, so what, is there Bible study then on Sundays? Well, now that's on Saturday, because the last time we came, it was,
But yeah,
it was church and then Bible study, so it's
yeah,
changed,
yeah.
apparently. So there's.
Oh,
In the
okay,
north,
so yeah,
south,
we
east,
have
and
the-
west,
we'll
you
have
just
like a
kind of
festival.
can't really imagine that when you're
One
actually
service in the
traveling.
morning,
Okay.
and then so 6 o'clock tonight is Bible study.
Okay.
And everything for the kids on Sunday nights too. Well, Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock.
Okay, so it's changed a little bit, then. Okay.
But ladies Bible study on
Okay, and on Saturday, Sunday or Saturday? Okay, I saw that, and I probably will. I probably will come. Is it 10 in the morning? 10 in the morning, okay.
Yes.
So yes, I
No,
will,
not
I will
Lagrange, but,
probably
the
do
Grange
everything, unless,
subdivision.
my,
So,
my
yes,
mother,
yes.
the only reason I can come to Baytown,
Yeah.
you still remember that one?
And then I started walking in the early morning because it just got too
You're
hot.
gonna do 2 songs for the recital?
And,
Oh, we can? Sure.
I'm
This is a
getting
recital.
I can't
Yeah.
eat anymore.
I
And so
take
the
her
morning
to
is
the water
perfect
first
time for me to have my quiet time.
Oh, okay.
And I'm walking 4.5 miles from Grange all the way to.
Okay, so it's not
WD.
here, okay, all right. Well, I am so glad to see, I didn't know you were coming here. Oh, you like it, it's fuzzy.
Are you walking and running?
Not as much right now.
No, this is just asking.
I got new running shoes for Christmas. So
Anytime I wear it,
Yeah.
you just see her
Yeah.
service.
You know, my-
It's like, leave some fur on it for me.
Right.
I know.
I have this
Oh,
face on my
my
face right here. That's
Sorry.
been-
It's so good to see you.
Sometimes I'll cut it.
So the little elephant, I am so
Found that it was-
I'm glad I actually saw it.
There's sometimes some break in there that
I guess you
just
put
won't
the
really go
moving and all
away.
the other stuff. I just lost track.
So sometimes it's just a break. Okay.
Okay.
Get irritated.
On Sam, I didn't know, even if she had tried to make that happen, she never would have
Like-
done it.
What's that? Just raised parts, it's almost like it's.
That, this is great.
Samples or something.
That is
I don't know what it is.
just,
I
and
don't know
you
what
gotta
it
share
is.
birthday
but
cakes, that's gonna be
Just
awesome.
filled too.
Huge cakes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but she watches online. She watches Facebook and online and listens to me.
Okay.
She'll probably tell me next time I talk to her, what's that stuff on your face?
Really? 'Cause, yeah, I was an only child, well, I've got a half sister, and Katie's an only child.
Oh, yeah,
And, kind of
Yeah,
like,
people listen,
I like a whole
yeah, it's
child.
live streaming.
Yeah.
Onto our app and
But, you know, I
website
can
and
understand
we're on
why you have
Facebook and
a
on
large family and all
YouTube.
that, so that's pretty
So
exciting.
people can watch it. I just, usually I do it at, I didn't have it with me today. I'm not there.
Of our size.
And I just, so I didn't push where I should have done it at 10 till, and I didn't think to buy
With
that.
yours and I was thinking about, I was trying to add them up, and I didn't.
Yeah, because it connects,
have enough
yeah, because it
siblings.
connects. In
So
fact, I
my
gotta turn
brother
it off.
Matt has 4 boys.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, sorry.
Okay.